Evicted single mothers want resettlement options. Senior lay policeman says Homebrew problem needs community support. And Kerema coffee farmers to benefit from subsidised air transport.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for Thursday's news. Tenants of the Toa Goober Hostel in Port Moresby are calling on the National Housing Estates Limited to provide land for them. They say if the property has been sold, then NHEL must relocate them before demolition takes place. This follows an eviction notice served to them on December 13th last year.
Tenants told MTV News they don't want to be displaced following the eviction notice. Responding to NHEL, the tenants want to be relocated to a piece of land.
So if National Housing Corporation are now making deals, or if they're actually selling up this place, the developer will have to relocate us, because that's one of our petitions. We want our land given to us, relocating people base land. House and Bible hard provide him. So just give us a piece of land, just like the people at Pagail.
There are over 40 families living in the 4 blocks of property in Port Moresby's downtown area. Most are single mothers and have lived for the past 30 years. They have written to the top management of the National Housing Estates but are still waiting for a response.
We asked them if they can give us ample time to look for accommodation so we can move. So today they haven't come back, so we want a response from them.
With the school year around the corner, most are concerned not to let this issue disturb their children's education. Tenants have also asked NHEL to reconsider the short notice of eviction and extend to the end of July this year. Meanwhile, NHEL stated in the eviction notice that it will not hesitate to conduct a forceful eviction if occupants do not comply with the notice. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Following the eviction notice served to tenants at the Toa Goober Hostel in Port Moresby, NHEL has broken its silence, saying the property is condemned. A National Housing Estates officer said city authorities have decided for the buildings to be demolished. NHEL said health and building inspectors have downgraded the property upon inspection. However, tenants told MTV News most of the renovation work to the property has been done by them. They say the last renovation by NHC was in 2002.
30 years plus more than 30 years. We have maintained this place with our own money. Own costings come from our own pockets. Some of the women's rental still go through yet. And where is the rental going when our water has been cut to?
East New Britain Province is considered one of the safest provinces in the country, but on its outskirts there are law and order issues that needs police attention. The Pomio district, one of the 4 districts of East New Britain Province, has since raised concerns over its law and order issues. This is spurred on by an increase in the level of economic activities happening in the district. DW journalism student Alphonse Aime Jr. files this report from Kokopo.
Law and order in Pomio district hasn't been a major concern until recently. An increase in the level of economic activities has prompted the people to raise concern about the level of law and order issues in this remote district. Gabriel Pollock, a village elder, agrees that the coming of oil palm and logging activities into the district has brought with it challenges.
Now development will come up, like plenty will come up, because when development comes, there is always something bad that will come.
Big development plans are in place for the district, such as road construction and 2 oil palm mills that is expected to generate millions of kina and employ hundreds of local people. The locals have called on the local MP, Elias Kapabore, to build police stations in their area.
Me asking strong member, we must get police, sit down here.
Meanwhile, the district is slowly seeing some positive changes. A new road has recently been opened that will connect parts of Pomio with Kokopo town for the first time. The road is seen as a basic necessity for all developments and other economic activities in the district. But new road means more people will be visiting the district, making law and order a major concern for the people here. The local people say they want law and order issues to be addressed before other economic projects become fully operational. Alphonse Ahmed Jr., National MTV News, Kokopo.
A senior police officer in Morbe says the prevention of homebrew and consumption in the community will depend on the support of all stakeholders and not just police. Senior Sergeant Andrew Kwalam said health officials, police, NGOs and other relevant government bodies will need to work together to raise awareness among the youth. He said many young people are producing and selling this illegal substance, thinking it is the only form of income for them.
Ben Okana is a youth of Situng village in the Labuta LLG on the outskirts of Lake City. Ben and other youths in their village have been producing homebrew for a very long time. Here, Ben explains the processes involved in producing the distilled alcohol, or steam, as it is commonly known.
Some like that was, all finish them time, bucket them ready, them sting, now smelling was sting now. Also, I think he was every. So I was kind of the pot, they only 5 liters of inside. 5 liters of inside, fire bago around there. Fire cooking the half long start now, steam and boil there, it's like boil there. I'm the processing condition type now. I'm the working coal there, process long. So I'm staying a lot of water. I'm giving coal now, producing coal now. It's like hot them, come on air. I'm the going air to them room. I'm coming to water, I'm the chemical change lab now. I'm producing liquid again, looks upside to end there. So I'm going to container now, I'm full up.
In recent years, steam has been blamed as the main contributing factor behind most of the crimes happening in Lake City and its surrounding communities. Senior Sergeant Kwalam from the Lake CID office says homebrew was introduced into the informal sector by youths as a means of earning an income. Although there are risks involved in its production, many of those who produce it don't pay much attention to it. But that is not all. When combined with marijuana, it is a very serious problem.
Police are trying their best to curb the rising homebrew activities, but we are not the eyes of every youth in the community.
The Lay police are struggling to curb this underground trade, but haven't achieved remarkable results, spared by limited manpower and limited logistical support.
We need to support police. They need to work hand in hand. They need to work in partnership with the police.
Police can only arrest and charge suspects involved in this illegal activity. But it takes a lot more effort and support from the community, relevant government departments and stakeholders to break its cycle. Matalubis, National MTV News, Ley.
Members of PNG Defence Force taking part in the illegal fishing boats operation in the waters of Milne Bay have returned to their base in Manus. The operation saw the capture of 2 illegal fishing vessels and crew of 55 men. The third boat was demolished after failing to stop and attempting to escape. The 55 men were handed over to National Fisheries Authority and PNG Customs and Immigration officials for appropriate charges. Among stories after the break, the body of veteran journalist late Osea Philemon returned to his home province, and Airborne Logistics provides subsidized air service for coffee farmers in Kerema Gulf Province. Stay with us. Welcome back. Coffee farmers in Kerema district will soon have a subsidized air service to transport their coffee out to the market. Today, Kerema MP Richard Mendani presented a cheque of 206,000 kina to air services company Airborne Logistics for subsidy services for coffee farmers in the district.
Kerema, one of two districts and the capital of the Gulf Province bordering Central Province in the east and Morbe Province in the north. The Kerema district is a riparian region where many rivers from the southern slopes of the highlands drain into. The Trans Highway is the only main road connecting the district to the nation's capital and is still partially incomplete. The main transportation modes are walking and canoeing. The district's partnership with service provider Airborne Logistics will see coffee farmers having access to buyers in the nation's capital.
This is a big positive step in terms of bringing more of our services to the remote communities. So presently we do service through the Central region, including Rigo, Goilala and Koyari, and this is our next move into the Kerema district. So we're looking forward to bringing more services and providing more ability and access for the remote and isolated communities that presently don't have any services or very, very limited services, and being able to bring basic services and essential services to their doorstep. So these kind of projects, we hope to see plenty more of them, and we believe this is just yet another step in the right direction and moving in a positive direction for basically connecting the dots and providing regional services.
Due to the country's poor infrastructural system, we see a lot of rural districts starved of development, making them unable to participate in the economy, thus crippling them of the economic opportunity to empower themselves. Mendani spoke of agricultural opportunities for Kerema.
I know the benefits of supporting farmers out in remote areas. There's a lot of added values and a lot of multiplier impacts. And I'm glad that Airborne Logistics have gone down this road, because that is where the majority of the people are. If they can grow their business and expand and deliver such service, Kerema district recognizes what they are doing, and we are ready to help and support.
Airborne Logistics, who are well versed in servicing the rural, inaccessible districts of the Central and Gulf provinces, also promotes agriculture by helping rural farmers stimulate their local economies. Apart from agriculture, Airborne Logistics supports passenger, cargo and medevac services in the area. Michelle Bird, National EMTV News.
Family, friends and the media in Leh gathered at Nadzab Airport this morning to welcome the casket of veteran journalist Philemon. His body was accompanied from the airport by police and a convoy of vehicles. Better known as OP, he was taken to the family home at Boundary Road for family and friends to pay their last respect. The funeral service will be held tomorrow at the St. Paul Lutheran Church before heading home for his final resting place in Labu village on Sunday. He was the longest-serving editor and editor-in-chief of the Post-Korea newspaper and also served as president of the PNG Media Council. The late Philemon was taken out of retirement late last year to assist the Post-Korea with their coverage of the 2017 national elections before his untimely death. A funeral service was held in Port Moresby yesterday, attended by many of OP's colleagues in the media industry, before his body was flown to Leh this morning. He is survived by 5 children and 15 grandchildren. A family in Leh is mourning the loss of their 16-year-old son after he was killed in a Christmas Eve road accident on the Nadzab Highway. Joshua Billy and his family were hit by a PNG Power vehicle. The victim's grandfather, John Sello, has been released from Engau Hospital, while the mother, Lisa Billy, is still admitted in the hospital. The father of the teenager, Billy Sello, says the death and injury are immediate losses, but damages and trauma are lifelong for surviving family members.
Here is a family nursing their mother. Sally Billy's injuries were sustained from a car accident one day before Christmas. Sally was traveling on the Nadzab Highway with 2 other people that day, her son Joshua and father-in-law John. While on the way to the Nadzab airport, their car collided with an oncoming PNG Power vehicle. Joshua was killed instantly. The car trip Joshua was on was to pick up a Christmas gift from his father, Billy Sello, sent from Port Moresby.
Misali mo present golo sambla family stablo Mosby na golo Leh na mitok sa lo family lo go na go kisim disla lili pasol lo golo kisim o family or plain good na ron blo le mo ron orai tasol na golo Nadzab.
Road accidents are estimated to claim many lives on the nation's roads. Chances are higher during peak traveling times in the Christmas and New Year period. In 2015, the National Road and Safety Council revealed that Papua New Guinea was rated in the top 5 of the global accident figures. Mr. Sello says the damages are far-reaching for his family. Not only is it for the loss of his son, but the lifelong trauma.
So Mr. Pinsalo big plus sorry because pain too, because me losing one bla son bla me, na wife bla me now with them two bla hand leg blend all buruk, silip bla house get.
After Joshua's burial in his father's village in Manus province, life will continue for the Billy family. They now have given up a son and brother to be another road accident statistic. A reminder that reckless driving kills. Harry Agimbari, National EMTV News, Leh.
And now looking at our finance news, the kina closed unchanged at $0.3150 US in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3075 US, $0.4203 Australian dollars, $0.2907 euro, and 35.79 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, cocoa, and copra closed higher. Palm oil and copper closed lower, while crude oil closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 60 points higher, the ASX is trading at 53 points lower, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 35 points higher. You're with National EMTV News. Stories making headlines overseas when we return, including the tension between Indonesia and Australia over security matters. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, the Australian Defence Minister has rejected claims Australia is recruiting members of the Indonesian Armed Forces spy. Tensions remain high after Jakarta suspended all defence ties.
A defence relationship half a century in the making interrupted.
Certainly we have indicated our regret that this occurred.
Indonesian troops withdrawn from Australia, military cooperation suspended after an Indonesian officer taking part in a language course took offence at training resources used by the SAS.
The material has most certainly been removed.
It's understood those resources referred to West Papua as not being part of Indonesia, and that a separate document used a potentially offensive play on words to describe the country's national ideology.
Not something that you would think would lead to the cancellation of all training.
Whereas this is General Gatot Nurmantio, the chief of Indonesia's Defence Force, claiming his troops were being cultivated as sources or spies.
He is concerned that when he sends his best officers to Australia to study in our courses or go to our staff college or whatever, that we will recruit them.
Retired Major General Jim Molan served in Indonesia and has his own theory about the General's motives.
He seems to have a chip on his shoulder about our involvement in East Timor.
Defence is now under pressure to explain why the investigation into the November incident has taken so long, particularly given the importance of Jakarta's cooperation on issues such as people smuggling, the fight against terrorism and tensions in the South China Sea.
This matter needs to be cleared up first, even though it's on an operational level.
Results of the inquiry are imminent.
Red Crescent workers recovered the bodies of 5 African migrants from Libya's coast after they were on a boat carrying around 80 people, which capsized earlier on Wednesday. Policemen arrested the surviving migrants, the majority of whom were from Senegal and some from Bangladesh. 5 Libyans were also on the boat and were referred to criminal investigation authorities after they were intercepted. In coordination with the International Organization for Migration, the remaining migrants were sent to shelters across the city. A record 5,000 migrants are believed to have drowned in the Mediterranean in 2016. For the first time, New York crimes have decreased in 2016. It took a quarter of a century to perfect, and it's still working. The trend lines in New York pointed downward in nearly all categories of reported crime.
Crimes in New York City fell to a historic low last year, the police said on Wednesday, January 4th, in a report showing that the largest U.S. city avoided a spike in murders that had baited other major American cities, including Chicago. Overall, there were 101,606 crimes that the police said they knew about during 2016, down 4% from 2015. There were 335 murders reported last year, down 5% from the 352 murders a year earlier. The record for the fewest since the city started keeping reliable numbers in 1963 was 328 murders in 2014. The trend lines in New York pointed downwards in nearly all categories of reported crimes, as shooting fell 12%, rapes fell 1%, robberies fell 9%, and burglaries fell 15%. Reports of felony-level assaults were up to 2%, while reports of grand larcenies were flat, according to police numbers.
What's a better example than New York City, right? For decades and decades, when people thought, sadly, of crime in cities, they thought of New York City. For a quarter century, there's been a systematic effort to turn it around. And that story's been told beautifully here today, starting with CompStat and all the changes in policing, right on up through neighborhood policing strategies, the great work of our community partners. That is a model. It's not a model from some pristine suburb. You know, a big, tough city we proved that you could turn crime around.
In a statement, New York City Police Commissioner James O'Neill said 2016 was the safest year ever in the history of New York City. Sawatoha Hambu, EMTV World News.
U.S. President Barack Obama has bid farewell to U.S. armed forces at a ceremony in Virginia, saying that he has had no greater privilege and no greater honor than serving as the commander and chief of the greatest military in the history of the world. At the ceremony, Obama was presented with the Medal of Distinguished Public Service by U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter.
Obama's foreign policy legacy rests in part on a foundation of unilateral actions that his successor Donald Trump could reverse with the stroke of a pen. Due to take office on January 20th, Trump, the winner of last year's elections, campaigned at times to dismantle Obama's nuclear deal with Iran and to reimpose sanctions Obama eased on Cuba. Trump also disagreed with foreign policy decisions that included the way Obama has deployed troops abroad to combat Islamist militant groups. In his most notable foreign policy achievements, Obama, a Democrat, used executive authorities that offered a convenient legal path around a Republican-controlled Congress committed to blocking his agenda. Obama deployed U.S. troops to Iraq, Syria, and Libya to fight the Islamic State militant group by relying on the authority Congress granted President George W. Bush to battle al-Qaeda. That same authority would allow Trump to ramp up U.S. deployments in fights against Islamic militants if he chose to do so. Trump's powers, however, are limited. He pledged to expand the Army, grow the Marine Corps, boost the Navy from 276 to 350 ships and submarines, and raise the number of Air Force tactical aircraft from 1,100 to 1,200. For starters, that would require that Congress scrap government spending caps under the Budget Control Act. Trump's support for waterboarding, an interrogation technique that stimulates drowning, also would meet opposition. Congress last year passed legislation barring the use of waterboarding and other extreme interrogation techniques widely considered torture. Obama signed the measure into law last November.
Of all the privileges of this office, and there are many, I will miss Air Force One, I will miss Marine One. But I can stand before you today and say that there has been no greater privilege and no greater honor than serving as the Commander-in-Chief of the greatest military in the history of the world.
Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
The Tokyo Stock Exchange, or TSE, held a ceremony yesterday to celebrate the beginning of stock trading in 2017, which some say could be a rough and choppy year for the markets.
The ceremonial bell signaling the opening of the market was rung by Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso as Tokyo Stock Exchange staff and nearby brokers attended. After the ceremony, the TSE market began trading. The Nikkei 225 opened at 19,298.68, up 184.31 points. A few Tokyo residents interviewed on what is traditionally also the first official day of work since the new year expressed hope for this year's economic success, while others were more concerned about what's to come after this year.
I'm not expecting much this year. I'm more concerned about what's going to happen after the Olympics in Tokyo 2020. So in 4 years' time, I'm worried there may be economic instability after the Olympics are over.
Toa Hambu, EMTV World News.
A Chilean family saved a humpback whale which had been entangled by fishing nets. 52-year-old Juan Meñares, who owns a sea tourism company, and his family were enjoying a New Year's outing when they spotted the humpback whale in distress about 500 meters from their boat.
The family took a closer look at the 10-meter, 32-foot whale and noticed it was not moving and had become enlarged in a fishing net on its tail fin, local media reported. They went to find the necessary equipment and thus, two of Meñares' children began the maneuver, which was risky due to the size of the mammal and the weight of the rope.
We came back to position ourselves next to the whale, and my two children dived back into the water, and there we were, successful in being able to cut the mesh and be able to pull the mesh up.
Finally, at the fourth attempt, they managed to cut the net and release the giant cetacean. Once the net was cut, the whale was able to thresh itself free and swim out to sea. After the rescue, the animal only had slight wounds on its fin due to the friction from the rope. According to the director of the Center of Studies and Environmental Education at the University of Antofagasta, Carlos Guerra, the net was for industrial use due to its size. He added this is the second time recently a humpback whale becomes trapped in fishing nets.
The corks and size of the cork indicates it is an industrial net, and this would be the second whale of the same species that has been trapped, because there was another whale just like this one, the same species, but who died.
Toa Hambu, EMTV World News.
Chukai Sports is next. Details after these messages.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. To Rugby League, the Bang 36 Nines tournament kicked off today at the Connie Tigers Oval in Port Moresby. The first match was played between the Port Moresby Punishers and the Oro Settlers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the official kickoff 2016-17 Bang 36.
The first match was officially kicked off by sponsor Brian Combe. The Port Moresby Punishers, a team made up of boys from all over Port Moresby, will be taking part in the New Guinea Islands Super Nines tournament, will be using the Bang 36 Nines tournament as a lead-up to the NGI Nines. The team is a collection of boys from different Port Moresby Rugby League and Intercity Cup teams. In the first match today, Punishers drew first blood in the tournament, scoring early in the match with a successful conversion kick. It wasn't long before the Settlers bounced back to level the scores at 6-all. In the last minute of the first half, Punishers feathered the lead, followed by a successful conversion kick, bringing the score up to 12-6. In the second half, Punishers continued to dominate, scoring a try, but failed to convert, leaving the score at 16-6. With their hard runs and fast plays, they got their fourth try. This then put them in a comfortable lead at 20 points to 6. In the last few minutes of the match, Settlers scored, but it wasn't enough, leaving the final score at 20-12. In the other match, East Boroko United forfeited Waigani Cowboys, and Gulf Isapea and PM's 13 captain Bennett Goma also took part in the 9th tournament today. Elijah Lavette, National EMTV Sports.
Melbourne Storm's winger Marika Koroibete will be missed in this year's NRL season, but the team has already made progress to replace him. Storm's football director Frank Ponisi says there are already 3 contenders to replace Koroibete: young Tonumaipea ex-West Tigers flyer Josh Edo-Carr and centre Curtis Scott. 24-year-old Tonumaipea started as winger in the first 6 games of the 2016 season, but got disrupted by a knee injury. Ponisi says if he starts off well this time, he would have a chance against rivals Edo-Carr and Curtis. Edo-Carr, for one, made an impression on the Storms when he scored against them in his NRL debut in last season's Round 7. Curtis, on the other hand, will not be making it any easier for his 2 rivals in the race for Koroibete's spot. The New Guinea Professional Boxing Association will host a one-day boxing tournament aimed at promoting professional boxing in the country. 12 professional fighters from around Port Moresby will lock horns in the ring on the 29th of this month, not only to promote pro boxing, but also to expose themselves to potential sponsors for individual fighters for international events.
On the 29th of January, 12 professional fighters will lock horns in the ring to promote professional boxing in Papua New Guinea. With the code still looking to find fame among Papua New Guineans, pro boxing has been running for 7 years and is only getting back into the circle, with New Guinea Boxing Association trying its best to bring together some of PNG's best professional boxers. The meet at the end of this month will see 12 fighters take part in their respective categories. The one-day event will see a total of 6 bouts between the 12 fighters. Many of these fighters were once amateur boxers who took up boxing growing up before participating in club events. Since then, some of them moved to representing Papua New Guinea in the Asia-Pacific event and the belt titles. They say reviving the code and promoting pro boxing in the country is their main aim, so that young and upcoming boxing talents can also follow their path into pro boxing in keeping it alive. Event organizers say while Papua New Guinea has talents in pro boxing, working with amateur boxers is the way forward to create more professional fighters for PNG. Boxing associations around NCD, Central and around Papua New Guinea have been encouraged to promote the code of boxing, in particular pro boxing, for its fighters. Tickets for the pro boxing promotions are going for 10 kina pre-sold, 15 kina at the gate, and tickets can be purchased at main shopping centres around Port Moresby, with the event to be staged at Sports Scene Club on 29th of January. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To golf, the Plantation course at Maui in Hawaii is set to host the 2016 PGA Tour winners, the first event on the 2017 calendar. Jason Day, Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson are among a group of last year's PGA winners who are hoping to start 2017 with a win at Kapalua, the first stop on this year's PGA Tour. Day has not played since back pain forced him to pull out during consecutive starts in the final 2 events of the PGA Tour season in September.
The 29-year-old Australian says he has shortened his swing in an attempt to stave off further trouble, a change that will be on display starting on Thursday. Despite setbacks, the Australian finished the year with the #1 ranking.
I'd like to go a full year, you know, not just go half the year and get to and finish at #1, because even though it's great, but I'd like to go a full year and then just slowly build on that. You know, I know what I need to do. I just need to keep working hard and practicing, and hopefully the results, you know, come with the process. But you know, that's one of the goals this year. Is obviously the goals are, you know, obviously to win majors and win as much as I can, but win majors and try and stay #1 for the whole year.
Defending champion Jordan Speight is looking forward to 2017 and did not mix words about his delight in seeing 2016 in his rearview mirror.
Happy when the ball hit touchdown and 2017 started. It was still a great year in 16, but I learned a lot on both ends of things, highs and lows, which I didn't really have many lows in 15. And before that, it was just trying to climb up to the top level. So I learned a lot from the highs and lows, and therefore I think I can use that to my advantage this year and on.
Speight ended the year on a high note with a November win in the Australian Open and a Ryder Cup victory in October. But he will probably never forget his final round collapse in the Masters, in which he lost the lead and the green jacket to Danny Willett. Dustin Johnson won the US Open at Oakmont in June by 3 strokes and says his first major win has taken a lot of pressure off his shoulders when going for the top 4 tournaments this year.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, the best part about it is I'm not going there to get my first major. I've got one, so, you know, I'm not still trying to win one. I've already won one. I know what it takes. I know, you know, I'd put myself in position a lot of times before, but just never really finished one off. And
Shane Soroya, MTV World Sports.
To football, Tottenham Football Club manager Mauricio Pochettino is pleased with the competitive nature of his side after their 2-0 victory over Premier League leaders Chelsea. Tottenham, who were 10 points adrift, showed resilience and character in overcoming a Chelsea side that was looking to set a new league record with consecutive wins.
Tottenham Hotspur denied Chelsea a record 14th consecutive Premier League win and loosened their grip on the title race as 2 Dele Alli headers secured a 2-0 victory at a Rock in White Hart Lane on Wednesday. After Tottenham's own title dream last season ended in a tumultuous 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge in May, there was a particular satisfaction that they stopped the Chelsea bandwagon. Arsenal still hold the record for consecutive Premier League wins, although their streak included 13 at the end of 2001 and 2, and 1 more at the beginning of the following campaign. Tottenham boss Mauricio Pochettino praised the competitive spirit of his players and said that factor could be the difference this season after his side's poor end to the last campaign cost them the title.
We are very pleased because for me the most important thing was that we show a great character. We were very competitive. That maybe that was the problem last season, that we missed to compete in a better way.
Antonio Conte's side were not at their best, although there was little between the teams in a high-tempo derby that thankfully never descended into the kind of indiscipline that resulted in 12 bookings in the Bridge battle last season. The 50th Premier League clash between their London rivals was an engrossing tactical affair with chances at a premium.
We are disappointed, but also think that we must be pleased for our run. To win 13 games in a row is not easy in this league. And also today you lost against a good team, a really strong team.
Tottenham's 5th consecutive victory lifted them from 5th to 3rd with 42 points from 20 games, ahead of Manchester City on goal difference and 1 point above Arsenal.
Tottenham is one of the 6 teams that can fight until the end for to win the title or to find a place in the Champions League.
Chelsea, who could have set a new record for consecutive wins during a single season, still lead second-place Liverpool by 5 points after 20 games, with Tottenham 7 adrift. Jeremy Moggy, National TV Sports.
And that's a wrap on Chukai Sports. Up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Chukai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow, in the southern region, a shower or two in Port Moresby, mostly fine in Daru, Kerema, Alotau and Popondetta. In the Momase region, a shower or two in Lae, Wewak and Vanimo, and mostly fine in Medang. In the New Guinea Islands region, a shower or two in all centres. And in the Highlands region, a shower or two, then morning fog in Mount Hagen, Mendi and Wabeg, and brief showers, then morning fog in Goroka and Kundiawa. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru, to Kiwai Island to Kerema, to Yule Island to Hood Point, to Samarai Island, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, Samarai Island to Cape Vogel, to Finschhafen, Finschhafen through Vitia Strait, Siasi Island to Long Island, Long Island to Medang, to Bogia to Wewak, to Aitape to Vanimo, to northern PNG Indonesian border, Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of New Ireland to New Britain, to Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas: in the Coral Sea, sea slight with northwest to southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Solomon Sea, sea slight with northwest to southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, sea slight with northwest to northeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, sea slight with southwest to northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Before we go, recapping our top stories for tonight. Evicted single mothers want resettlement options. Senior lay policeman says Homebrew problem needs community support. And Kerema coffee farmers to benefit from subsidised air transport. And that's the way it is this Thursday, the 5th of January 2017. From the entire EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.